Great. I think we are live now. Welcome to the Generation Engagement live stream session. Thank you to all those who are also joining us at the session. It's a 1 hour session where we would just like to talk a little bit about how to create a multi-generational workforce environment. Something that has been in discussion for quite a while amongst many companies. And today we're just going to browse through a couple of key ideas that I would like to share on behalf of the Generation Index company. To start off with, I think what's very important to understand is that currently we have 4, and in some cases even up to 5 generations in the workspace. Now, many of you might have known that that this has never ever happened before, where we have seen 5 generations or 4 to 5 generations. And we will get into some of these generations and who they are just a little bit later now. But I think what's important to understand is with this different generations in the workspace also comes a lot of challenges. Some people are saying the younger generations coming into the workplace are struggling to commit. They're not a loyal generation, as we also have the younger generation looking at some of the older generations in the workspace and saying, but these generations have been going on the same way over and over, and there has been no change ever. So they do not see the reason for why they need to continue working at the specific workplace. So what has happened over the years is that we have seen younger people stepping into the work environment. They will be there for a short time. Companies will invest a lot of money trying to ensure that they are more capable of doing the work the company basically requires. But then eventually, after a few months, the individual will move on and join in with another company, which raises a lot of questions for companies as to how much do they have to invest into a younger generation, and maybe isn't it just better to have an older generation working with them who are showing more loyalty to the organization. Now, something which is also important to take note is that although the people are saying this younger generation is not a loyal generation or are not a committed generation, what we need to understand is that they are actually a loyal generation, but their loyalty is to something different. Their loyalty is not to a specific organization as which you will find with an older generation. Their loyalty is much more towards their personal development. And therefore, if a company is not providing a clear-cut indication as to the potential of personal growth within a company, then you will often find the younger generation looking for alternatives outside the workplace, and therefore the turnaround of plus minus about 18 months is what we see the statistics are giving us of younger generations sticking to a specific company. So therefore, it's crucial for any organization that wants to think forward. They are futuristic in their thinking as to where can this company be in the next 5 to 10 or 15 years. They cannot think without thinking multi-generational work environments. 2 other very interesting statistics which I think it's important to take note of as we are giving a little bit of background to this, is that in the continent of Africa, we are sitting with about 67% of the population under the age of 25. So yes, we do have a very, very young continent when it comes to age population. If we look more specific towards South Africa, it changes slightly, where we currently have about 68% of the South African population under the age of 35. So still, South Africa being majority a very young population. So I think it's important for any organization that thinks futuristic to take note of this age group, the population group that we have in our country and in our continent. And just so on the sidelines, some very interesting things I've recently read as well is that when you look at urbanization, then Sub-Saharan Africa is currently the fastest urbanizing region in the world, which brings to it a total different dynamic as well as into how organizations need to think futuristic and need to plan as they go forward. But coming back to generations, with 4 generations in the workspace, it's obviously good to just have a quick look as into who they are. Obviously, every generation's got a different name. Depending on where you are in the world or to whom you speak, you might refer to these generations differently. For today, we will refer to the boomer generation. Those are the people that were born more or less between the ages of during the time of 1946 and 1964. Generation X, born between 1965 and 1983, and then the millennials born between 1984 and 1996, and the new generation, the Generation Z, which a lot of companies and organizations are spending millions of dollars around the world to understand this generation better and the behavior of this generation. They are born more or less between the years 1997 and the year 2002. I think or something that's also important to take note is that it's not a specific year thing. Therefore, depending on where you are in the world or where you are even in a South African context, you might find behaviorisms of one generation visible in another generation, and usually it's because there's an overlap or the exposure the specific individuals has taken or been exposed to or had. All of these things are contributing to the behavior of specific individuals, but more or less, as studies have been done around South Africa and around the continent and as well as around the world, they have categorized these generation behaviors more or less into these different brackets. And therefore you have the boomer, Gen X, millennials. Another word for millennials is also Generation Y, and another word for Generation Z is also the iGen generation. And so yeah, very interesting statistics that are coming from them. But to help you, I want to encourage you that on the Generation Index website, under the tab Worth Reading, you will find different articles, different resources, videos, etc., that will help you to get a better understanding on who these different generations are and the impact of these generations in the workplace. So yeah, on the Worth Reading tab and on the website Generation Index, you will be able to find that. So if you have a moment after this broadcast, you're welcome to go and have a look at that as well. Okay, I just want to say also, if you are watching and you have a question in the group chat, you're welcome to post us a question so that we can answer those questions during the broadcast session. So yeah, you're welcome to do that as we continue. Moving on, as we said today, we want to talk a little bit more about the advantage of having a multi-generational workspace or workforce. And I want to quickly just stop for a second on the word advantage. I think in today's competitive world, where companies are competing more or less for the same customers, there's always a thing of a company or organization to be on the cutting edge. And therefore, if we look at the word advantage, it basically just means a condition or circumstance that puts one in a favorable or a superior position. So having a multi-generational work environment or a healthy multi-generational work environment, it might just put you on the cutting edge and give you that advantage you need when you are competing with other companies or organizations targeting the same target market or the same market. So yeah, one of the advantages, and we will run through a couple of them, is productivity. It's interesting to see that they are saying that the workplace diversity increases employee morale and often causes for employees to desire to work more effectively and efficiently. So having a multi-generational work environment might add to productivity and the increase of productivity. And some of the reasons given for this is because when you have a multi-generational work environment, people tend to become more creative. Now, diversity obviously brings in new ideas, brings in new thoughts and solutions to challenges that the company or the organization might be facing. New experiences are brought to the table as to how things can be done differently. So old methodologies might move out and new methodologies might move into the process. The more diverse ideas that are coming to the table, the more different opportunities or the more different ideas for finding workable answers might also then come to the table. So by having a multi-generational work environment, the diversity brings in different ideas, different thoughts, different ways of dealing with things, and therefore we will find more creativity coming into your work environment. The second thing, or the second reason for productivity increase is that it helps with personal development. Workplace diversity is an opportunity for personal growth in an organization, by intentionally utilize the possible advantages of having a diverse workforce. Opportunities and platforms can be created for these different groups to learn from one another and eventually creating stronger teams. If the right environment is created for these different generations to connect with one another, you will be able to see that they can actually learn from one another, they can strengthen one another, and stronger teams are developed. So once again, by having a multi-generational work environment, you will see people have the opportunity to learn and to grow, and personal growth is then obviously taking place. Technology, younger generations are growing up with advanced technologies, and the experiential knowledge can then often lead to more streamlined application of different activities. In an article that I've recently read, apologies, in an article that I recently read on Small Business Chronicles, they explain it for me as follows, and they say that while age demographics must embrace technology in the professional world to communicate and effectively reach their customers, a workforce that contains tech-savvy employees has different advantages over companies that employ only mature workers. So what does that mean when we look at the aspect of technology? Is that younger people are bringing in their knowledge and their experience into the company, and because they bring that in, they can help to streamline the things that are currently happening in your organization, and how it can even then be done differently, and how technology can be used to just make things happen a lot faster, more effectively. Having these technologies implemented into your work environment, the guys are saying that eventually those companies will be the companies that will move forward a lot quicker, and will have that advantage over other companies who do not have younger people or making use of technology in the workspace. The next one is customer experience. It's interesting to read how people are going through these research documents, and I think I just remind of our own team also as we work through these documents. We realize that a diverse team allows us for opportunities to communicate and deal with customers across all age spectrums. It's like every generation contributes their own knowledge and their own experience on how they can reach their peers. So if you have a diverse work environment with different age groups, and each group has an opportunity to bring to the table on how to reach their own target market or their peers, then that kind of information, that diversity that is in your organization will then eventually contribute in helping to have a much better focus in reaching a broad spectrum of people, or a wider customer market. So yeah, customer experience certainly is something that increases when you have a healthy multi-generational work environment. The last one that I want to stand still on is continuity. By having a multi-generational work environment in place, and again, I'm referring to a healthy one, because most organizations do have a multi-generational work environment. It's just not a healthy place. but we will get to that also a little bit later. But to have that in place, we will realize that older workers will have the opportunity to transfer multiple years of experience to a next generation. And in a way, they are allowing for the history of an organization to stay intact with the future of the organization. So, yeah, once again, what we are seeing is that we have an older generation being able to transfer their knowledge and experience, and in the process, continuity is taking place in the organization, and that helps organizations to stay alive and to keep going forward. So yeah, advantages of a multi-generational work environment. It increases productivity if it is healthy, and that comes through different ways or avenues. For example, creativity, as we've mentioned, a space for personal development, the application of technology, and targeting a broader spectrum, or targeting customers across all age spectrums, and then continuity as we move into, as older generations are moving out and younger generations are moving in. Once again, I want to say that if you have any questions in the group chat, you're welcome to post it there, and then we will answer questions as we continue. As we move on, something that I think which is important to understand, again, also when we look at organizations or generations, actually, sorry, when we look at generations, a generation is classified by its behavior. And any organization needs to understand that behavior is not something that just changes overnight. There are a lot of things that contribute to a specific behavior, and therefore I just want to stand still for a few seconds again as into what are some of the contributors or the key contributors to generational behavior. The first one we want to talk about is worldview. Now, every generation grows up in a different environment or a different time frame, a different experience, and therefore what we see is that as they grow up, they are exposed to different things, and all these things that they are exposed to helps to develop their worldview. For example, my kids, they have grown up in an environment where technology is something that we use often in the house. They know what a phone is or a smartphone is. They have no idea what a dial-up phone is. So it could be very interesting when they eventually pick up a normal dial-up phone, and it might be a strange experience for them. But they know they know the abilities of technology, and therefore for them anything that does not include technology is strange. They don't know what it is, and so when older generations start speaking from their experiences in the time from that they grew up, a lot of the things that they might be sharing might be totally strange to them, and they will have no reference that they can go back to. So worldview is the fundamental or the foundation eventually that influences our behavior. So how the psychology framework thing works is that once someone has been exposed to a different worldview, we will see that worldview eventually influence our belief systems. If I've never seen the ability of what a smartphone can do, I will not believe that a smartphone can actually have an impact to increase the productivity of my company. If I don't know how technology can be used to increase the effectiveness of my company or my organization, I will obviously not even make use of it. But once I started to get exposed and my worldview started to change, and I realized, but wait a minute, technology actually can play a role, I will start to believe that technology can play. That will have a direct impact on what my values are, and eventually we will see a behavioral change taking place. So this is important to understand, that when we look at healthy multi-generational work environments, each generation brings to the table their own worldview, their own experiences, their own understanding of things, which has shaped their belief systems. And eventually, through those belief systems, they have created these values that is now affecting their behavior. So when we talk about behavior in the workspace, we need to understand where it all comes from. And if we have a desired behavior that we want to have at the workspace, we need to go back to the root and making sure that we do give opportunity for these individuals in our workplace to experience a different worldview, so that their belief system can be changed and their values being influenced, and we can start to see a different behaviors taking place in our workspace. So those things are critical. It's crucial to make sure that we have those things in place in our understanding when we try to create these healthy multi-generational work environments. How do we take it to the next step? Some practical things that I might like to share with you. First of all, I think any organization needs to create platforms or opportunities for discussion. We need to create the space where these different generations can come around the table and have discussions. Discussions regarding the way things are maybe done, experiences they have had. Collectively, they can work in solving problems, bringing different avenues on how they think these problems can be solved. And obviously, as we said earlier, and by doing that, they will start to learn from one another. Personal growth will start to take place. They will be more creative in the process, and it's essential for any organization to be intentional when it comes to creating platforms for healthy dialogue, healthy discussions in the process. Another key thing or another practical step that I want to bring to the table when it comes to creating healthy multi-generational work environments is that we need to understand for the younger generation, and those would be the guys in the young or the late Gen X generation, those in the early 40s today, and all of those younger, the Y generation, the millennials, and even the I generation. One key thing for all of them is that when they get involved in an organization, the involvement is more about the purpose of the organization than it is about the paycheck. Therefore, we often also see young people leave the workspace or the workplace for another place, and then they will even take a pay cut if they have to, but eventually they feel more comfortable because they're serving a better purpose. So for any company, it's essential to understand as into what is the purpose of my company. What is it that's the main reason that we exist? And for that, I want to take you to a takeout from the Singularity University that talks about massive transformative purpose. What is the single thing or the single reason you exist? And then they look at these three things and they say, well, first of all, it's got to be something that is massive. Now, I just need to say this quickly also, is that when we look at a massive transformative purpose of an organization, it is not about making money. Making money is not a massive transformative purpose. There's many ways of making money, and that will not be the glue that will help these younger generations to stick with your organization if making money is your main purpose. So a massive transformative purpose, it needs to be something that is big. It needs to be something that is aspirational, encouraging, and intriguing, and something that people want to get involved. It needs to be transformative. It can cause significant transformation in an industry, a community, or on the planet, but there needs to be change. This organization or this generation, apologies again, this generation is a generation that is after change. They want to see things done differently, and therefore if your organization can be involved in producing change, it becomes part of your massive transformative purpose, and it becomes a glue to which this generation or this younger generations will stick to. And then the purpose, there's got to be a clear why behind the work that you are doing, something that unites and inspires action. And people are asking, young people specifically, they are asking when they walk into an organization, they ask the question, why? Why does this organization exist? What is the reason for them being here? But the why goes beyond that. It even moves into, why are we doing things the way we are doing things? Can it be done differently? And it's got to do with the transformative focus, the ability to change and the willingness to change. But as I say, we will even get to that again. So the question that I almost want to ask you, and I often come to this space, is that when we look at younger generations, we realize that they are part of a community. They've always been part of a community, and that community is a cloud-based community, is social media, Facebook, Twitter, WhatsApp groups, etc. This younger generation understand what it means to be part of a community. The question that I often want to ask is that if your organization had to be a Facebook or a Twitter or a Google Groups as an example, what would be the #1 reason for this generation or for someone to actually connect themselves to you? Why do they want to become part of your group? And that helps us to get an understanding on what is our massive transformative purpose. And how do we do this? So if your workplace had to be an online social group, why would you want people to be part of it? I think it's a question that can be thrown out for a discussion, maybe as you are pulling these different generations together around the table, is to ask them this question. Good. We've already mentioned a platform for personal growth, essential when we look at this emerging generation or this younger generation that has stepped into the workspace. This generation, as I said earlier, they're looking for a space where they can grow personally. Millennials are attracted to employers who can offer more than merely a good pay. That is not to say that pay isn't important, but a lot of them are rather say that they will take a pay cut if they have to, just to work in a place where they can find personal growth taking place. The generation are very more committed to personal learning and development, and it remains their first choice benefit from any employer. The next important part, or the next step for this younger generation, which is a focus point for the generation, is the ability of the organization to change. Is the organization open for change? Every company, and I just love the statement that is written by Rolf D. Stacey, where he says that every company, regardless of size or product offering, should take a hard look at itself every year using rigorous self-assessment to determine what is working in its organization as well as what is not. It is also essential to understand the external environment and how that impacts your business today as well as in the future. So every organization needs to look at itself on a continuous basis and ask themselves what is working, what is not working, and how do we change. And this is a brilliant and an excellent opportunity to bring in this different generations around this table and to say, let's talk about the future of the organization. Where can we go? How can we get there? And allow these generations and these people to contribute towards those viewpoints as into how it can be changed. And that links very much into with leadership engagement. Often we find in organizations that major decisions regarding the future, problem solving, etc., is something that is done only by top leadership. General employees in organization do not have much of a say when it comes to those decision making, even though they might have some very good answers and abilities to assist as into what the future can look like. So one thing this generation is really looking for is a space where there's a healthy leadership engagement, an opportunity to connect with top leaders and not just working by themselves. In the book Open Organization, we read the following, where it says, for a number of decades, managers were responsible for developing the precise standard procedures for doing each job. Select workers with appropriate abilities, train workers in the standard procedures, and carefully plan out all their work and provide wage incentives to increase employee output. That is busy changing, and leadership or generations are saying we're looking for flexible flow of ideas and processes that can meet the needs of each and every individual within the organization as we pursue the goals of the organization. Every generation or every employee wants to be part of the decision making, and although it might not be the final decision making, but there's got to be a space created where this generation can be part of the discussion and add to the conversation. Once again, as we are working through this, before we get to the next one, I want to encourage, if you have any questions, please do post your questions in the group chat area, and I would love to answer that for you as well. The next one is an interactive community. It's the fourth key element that I want to stand still on, what the emerging generation or the younger generation in the workspace is looking for. They're looking for a space where they can find community. Again, as earlier mentioned, for as long as younger people can remember, there's always been opportunities for them to network in some kind of a platform, whether it was WhatsApp groups, Facebook, Google groups, etc. And so what they're looking for today is to say that when I go to my workspace, how will my workplace become the reality of my online social network? The trend that has been installed in these younger people for a sense of community, and today it has formed an instrumental behavioral requirement for them within the workspace. However, within the workspace, they are not interested in more social or online connectivity, but rather they're looking for the real tangible experience of what social group represents in the cloud space. So the connectivity they get and the networking they get in the social space, they want to see the reality of that taking place in the workspace. So for your organization to really accommodate and become a place of where there's a healthy multi-generational work environments, we have these four things that generations are crying for, and they are saying we want to make sure that we are able to see personal development taking place. We want to see organizational change taking place. We want to make sure there's ability for leadership engagement to take place, and we want an interactive community. Four key essentials for a generation or for a multi-generation workspace. And yeah, an encouragement that I think for any company or organization that are looking for ways to do this. How can we as the Generation Index assist you in this? Well, first of all, I just want to say that the Generation Index exists for the exact purpose of creating healthy multi-generational work environments. For the last few years, we have developed a tool that's capable of assisting you in giving you an environment rating. What does that mean? Through our assessment, we are able to look at what your organization is currently doing, and we will be able to identify or indicate the effectiveness of your organization to attract and accommodate a younger leadership generation. We also have different level report structures that empowers you with a deeper insight to effectively prepare and equip and steer your organization in becoming a platform for younger leaders. And then also we have one-day workshops where we will empower you with practical steps to apply within your organization, and the end result is creating change towards more open platforms for intergenerational engagement. So yeah, from the Generation Engagement Index, we provide three main services: environment rating, detail reports, and workshops. And then afterwards, we will be in dialogue and assist through consulting as well, if that is something you might need. As an addition, I want to encourage you obviously to go to our website. At the website, you will find multiple resources. The website is plaingenerationindex.com. But in the menu tab, you will also find the tab that says worth reading. Now, under worth reading, there are different resources. There are articles. We continuously update or post new articles that are written by numerous people. As we discover in books that deals with how to create multi-generational work environments, we make those links available for you on our website. The same goes for videos and even research documents, research that is done by organizations like Deloitte and Touche, PricewaterhouseCoopers, etc. We keep posting as those research documents are made available. We also just post it onto our website and have a direct link to that for you as an additional resource to equip you and empower you to create your multi-generational work environment. As I'm closing, I think we want to make sure that everyone knows about it, that we do a free survey and we do give a free summary report. So if you are not sure whether your organization is a healthy multi-generational work environment or has a multi-generational work environment, we are willing to help you by doing a free survey. It's an online survey that we do. And we also provide to you a free summary report. It is when you want more details as into what those reports can tell you, that there's a fee attached to that. But as a live broadcast session, we are having today a 20% discount on the Accelerate version, and that will be valid until the end of April 2017. So if you decide to do a free survey, if you register to have a free survey done and to receive the free summary report, and then afterwards decide that you also would like to do the Accelerate version on the business or on the corporate package, we are prepared to give you a 20% discount on that. But yeah, that's only valid until the end of April 2017. And so it's up to you whether you're interested in that, and we would love to serve you in that capacity. So in closing, multi-generational work environments, it is the future. It's where organizations are heading to. We are sitting with 4, in some cases, in the workspace, and it's something we cannot run away from. It's more about how do we engage with that, and how do we actively partake in seeing that we make use of the advantages that are available through that and get on the cutting edge and increase productivity in our organizations. So in closing, I thank you for listening. And again, I encourage you to go to our website, generationindex.com, for more information on how we can serve you through a free survey and a free summary report. And remember the special 20% discount if you decide to take the Accelerate version on the corporate sector before the end of April 2017. I thank you, and I look forward in hearing from you. And as you post any questions, I will continue to answer that. Thank you.